What makes Apple computers so good, and why you should consider buying one. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I wanted to talk about what makes Apple computers so good, so compelling to people, and why should you buy one if you don't have one right now. Now, I thought about this video for a while. This usually brings out more Mac haters and lovers, but I still wanted to make it because it's just my opinion. And if you're thinking about buying, you're kind of on the edge of buying a Mac computer, I just wanted to give you some insight into what made me change over, and it might help you as well. Again, everyone's different. There's going to be reasons to buy all different computers out there. I'm not saying this is right for everybody, but if you're thinking about it and you're on the fence, this might push you in the right direction. All right, before you respond and jump all over me, a couple things. I want to give you some of my history. Now, I came from a Windows background. I started using Macs maybe about 7, 8 years ago. And before then, I thought, Apples were stupid. I thought there's no way you should spend $1,200, let alone $2,000 to $3,000 in a computer. Absolutely, I thought that was totally nuts. If you watch my channel, I have over 600 videos now. I do a lot of stuff with used Apple computers that are older just to show you how good they are. So I don't like to spend a lot of money. I like to buy the base model, maybe upgrade up to 16 gigs of RAM, and that's it. So I'm not saying go out and spend $3,000, $4,000 on an Apple computer. You can do that, but you have to make sure, obviously, that you are getting money back from your job or from your endeavor to actually pay for that. Otherwise, don't give Tim Cook any more of your money. He does not need any in his yacht. Don't give Apple any more money. They don't need any more money. I'm not saying give Apple your money. I'm just saying if you're thinking about an Apple, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of reasons here and why it's a good choice for a lot of people, and then you can make your own decisions. All right, and I get it, definitely. I mean, there's companies like Apple and Nike and Budweiser and who else is out there? You name them, Coca-Cola. They all have these kind of political agendas and they get involved in all this crazy stuff. And I'm not for that, all right? I think companies should stay out of all politics. They should stay out of all personal things, because what happens is you alienate 50% of the people out there. So whether you love Apple or hate Apple, I'm not talking about their political reasons or their this or that or what they do behind the scenes with the environment, all that kind of stuff. That's something that you have to deal with. I'm talking about the actual computers themselves and the hardware and why they make a good system. Even though some of the other stuff, I think they should all stay out of it because it's just not right today. There's too much turmoil as it is. I think people should focus on what they're making. But it's the computer here that I want to talk about, and that's what this video is going to be about. All right, so what is this reason why you should buy a Mac and what makes them so good? It's called the sum of all parts, and I'm going to explain this, so stay with me here for a second. I have some things written over here, so I'm going to look over here from time to time, but the Apple screens, all right, let's just go through some of the things that Apple has. Apple has, if not the best, some of the best screens in the market, from their laptops, on their monitors. They're expensive, right, but they're quality. They're all Retina. All the colors are super accurate and things like that. So they have, as a lineup, one of the best screens you can buy. You know what you're going to get. They're just always going to look beautiful, and they always get people kind of excited when using them because they just look so good. But that's besides the point. There are going to be Windows laptops that are challenging their screens. There may even have a couple out there that are actually better, right? But there's very few lineups across the whole board that have such a good display as Apple products. So when you pick an Air versus a Pro and things like that, you're going to know you're getting that quality. You're not kind of, if you get a cheaper computer, doesn't mean you're going to really get that much of a lesser screen. There's differences for sure, but they're all really high quality. And Apple's one of the few companies to put it all together like that and across their entire lineup where there's not really a bad one. All right, keyboards. So obviously I had a MacBook Air here. Now Apple had its problem with keyboards. I'm going to call it out. They had a terrible problem with them, but they fixed it with this M series. So now you could argue that across the entire lineup that Apple keyboards are some of the best keyboards to type on. I love them. I mean, some people hate them with the low profile, including this even iMac one here, but I learned to love them. I think they're one of the best. Now you can again argue that Lenovo, for example, has some keyboards that are better. And I know people from both parties, all right? I like Lenovo too. They're good work laptops and stuff. There's no problem with them. It's just more what you get used to, but those are probably the two top companies right now. But the problem with Lenovo is that they actually have a lineup, again, where if you're buying a lesser model for maybe $500, $600, $700, you're usually not going to get the same quality of keyboard as you would with their $2,000 to $3,000 systems that the company buys for you to take home. So there's some differences there, and you just don't always know what you're going to get until you use it for a long time. With Apple, you do know. Now, Apple made a lot of mistakes on their keyboards, and like I said, I'm calling them out for that, but they fixed it now. They are great right now, and that's just another sum of the parts I'm talking about, the keyboards. Apple does a really good job with them. They're not the best, arguably, I guess, but they're up there. They're probably in the top 2 or 3 companies that make them. All right, build quality. So if you look at Apple computers, when you pick up a laptop like this, even like this cheap, these are $759 right now. You can buy these, the M1s. I mean, it's a solid block of aluminum milled. Even like the little gaps and stuff are perfectly aligned. The screens fit perfectly. Everything is just beautiful on it. It's nice to touch. It just looks and breathes quality. It just is something is great, right? So when you get it, you know what you're going to get. So the build quality on Apple, well, again, you may find some other Windows laptops out there that are going to be challenging it, and some people can argue they like the design better, which is true. Over the complete lineup of these systems, you can't argue that they didn't do a good job. I mean, they're not attractive, and they're not nice to hold, they're not light, and they're not really good for what they are, housing a very powerful machine in a small package. So overall, it's, again, the sum of the parts here that make this thing one of the best computers, because of the fact that you rarely ever get a build quality like this on any other systems, let alone across the cheapest one, which is $750, all the way up to the more expensive ones. You just know what you're going to get, and it's just something that a lot of people talk about, but until you have one and own one, you just don't know what it means. It's not that important at the end of the day, but I guess holding in the visual experience of the laptop is always important when you think about it. All right, batteries. So batteries on these things can get up to about 18 hours, supposedly on paper. No way. I mean, I would say 10 or 11 hours, but even so, that's double or triple any Windows laptop. And some of the best Windows laptops, yes. Can they get up there? Can they challenge us? Well, I'm sure if I looked hard enough out there, I could find a brick of a laptop that has a way bigger battery that can last 3 days. These things can last 10 or 11 hours, but at the end of the day, you're not getting those laptops in a package this thin, this light, and this nice to look at. You're also not getting a battery that's consistently been one of the best over, Mac's lifetime. I mean, if you look at the whole Mac lineup for going back a long time, they've always kind of led this area. So now battery is one of those things that's super important if you need it and super important if you don't, because you'll need it one time. So that's really important for a lot of people, is battery, and that's where they excel, is battery. And if you add that to the other things I talked about, you can kind of see a pattern happening. All right, ports. Ports on these things, obviously, that's where they can fall short a little bit. But the one thing you get from Apple is quality Thunderbolt ports, all right? So you're not going to get some cheap 10 gigabit per second. You're going to get some high quality here, ports that come with it. Now, there's not a lot of them, right? But they fixed it on some of the MacBook Pros that are coming out, that are coming down a little bit in cost. And they have the SD card readers. They also have a couple other things going on. So if you think, at the end of the day, again, they may lose a little bit in ports here, but at least you know what you're getting, and they're always quality. You can hook up a 40 gigabit per second enclosure and get high speeds out of it. You can hook up a hub and move a lot of data across that hub, or hook up a monitor here and there. So overall, you just know that it's not going to be cheaply made or going to fall apart on you, and it's going to always work. All right, so let's talk about the OS. Now, when I was a little bit younger, I'm getting older now, but when I was younger, the OS on Windows I loved. I was go out there and I'd download all the crazy programs. There was all those crazy things going on with the free music files. The whole, the 90s and the late 80s, 90s. That whole time, it was great. It was the wild, wild west. You could download programs and do weird things. It was all free, right? And you always laughed at the Macs because they didn't have the same capability of downloading that software. But today, as I got older, I realized the one thing that I really kind of cherish on a computer is keeping me safe. When you download those rogue programs, you really don't know what you're getting, what's going to be on them, what problems they can cause later. And I kind of like the sandbox of the Mac, of having more kind of trusted but less applications. Now, it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but everything I need is in here, as far as they do really good applications on the ones that I use. And it also protects me, my livelihood, as I get older, it protects you in various ways. Now, is it perfect? No. I mean, can it get hacked? Yes. Is there going to be malware? Yes. Is it less than Windows probably doing the same amount of work to protect yourself? It's probably going to be better off getting a Mac there. It's again, everything's going to be different depending on who you are, but I'm saying for most of the users that actually just want to be protected out of the box the best that they can without having to deal with other stuff, at least give them a fighting chance in the wild, wild west. The sandbox of the OS, well, again, you don't have as many features on the OS maybe as Windows, and you can't do as many customizable things, and there's a lot of things that people love, like side loading and stuff. The people that usually buy these don't want that functionality per se. They're more into like specific things like video editing and stuff, so I can kind of give and take there, and that's one of the reasons I actually learned to like this as I get older. All right, so one thing too I got to mention about the OS is just the integration with its other devices. So you buy an iPhone, you buy a Mac, you buy an iPad, you have all the different things you have going. You put something on here you want to work on today on your laptop, you can pick it up on your phone at maybe 5 o'clock later today in the afternoon, and then tonight you can go to your iPad and pick the same thing up. It's just integrated very well for people that may not want to have to deal with all the other issues of getting that all set up. Windows can do it. You have to know what you're doing and all that kind of stuff, but just the integration and how easy it is to pick this up for even older people and things like that is just pretty amazing. And again, when you add this to the other features I talked about, the build quality and everything else, and you name everything, it's going to be that sum of parts that make the Apple computers very compelling. So the price, again, the price is maybe the biggest negative on these things, all right? But I think when they start thinking about all those sums, they can get the best or close to the best of everything in one package. Now, it's not the best in everything. Like I said, the ports or sometimes the keyboards in the past and stuff, but you get a really good fair shake at most of the things on it. People are willing to spend a little bit more money and justify the cost because they can, usually use it for more years. It's going to last them a little bit longer. On top of that, they can resell these for a lot higher as well, so you're getting some of your money back. So you got to think of it that way. If you buy a $400 or $500 laptop, sure, they're out there. But if you buy this $750 laptop, this is going to last longer. I can almost guarantee it. It's more ingrained into their whole ecosystem, better build quality, and it's probably going to be faster with the M1 chip than a lot of the stuff out there on the Windows side for $400 or $500. So you just got to throw all that in, and here we are. It's the sum of all the parts. And then I'm going to wrap this up, but at the end of the day, why should you get a Mac? Well, let me just explain. 7 or 8 years ago when I started on the Macs, I was really, like I said, a Windows user, and I never really got into video editing, or I never really found the hobby that I wanted to do later in life. I got that iMac. The screen just wowed me. It was a 5K screen, and I think back then it was a 5K screen, but the screen was just beautiful compared to any other monitor out there. And so I started doing other things like video editing, and I created my channel. Now my channel is one of the funnest things I do. I get to talk to people. It's something that I do creatively besides my other work and stuff like that. So I ended up growing as, a person just based on looking at a screen. Now, could I have done that on a Windows machine? Of course I could have, but I had it for many, many years and I never thought about it. I never just got excited about it. As soon as I got the Mac, I got more excited. I got more into that kind of stuff, and it made me who I am today as far as building out stuff like this. Now, am I the best video editor? No. But do I give it a shot? Yes. And that's what I like about this. So it did make me, like I said, use the computer more just because I enjoyed the use of it. And I think that's where the value comes in with Macs. It's not so much that you're getting so much more. You might hate their politics. You might hate a lot of things about the cost. You may hate the people that use them even. But you can't argue one thing, that the sum of all the parts that they put together in one package is probably the best package in the industry, and they can afford to have people pay up for it because people are willing to do it. I'm not one, you know me, if you watch my channel, I'm not one to tell you to do that. I always say buy the base model, buy this, or buy a used one. I don't want people to waste money. But I got to give them credit in one area where credit is due. They are pretty good, and that's why you should get one. We'll talk to everybody soon. Peace.